Why hello, and welcome back. Today we're doing a special long play video where I'm going to be drawing this commission of a Eladrin elf, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's D&D. Who knows how it's really pronounced? It's all fantasy, so at the end of the day I could be wrong on something that's made up, so I know it's more important than that for some people, but still. Anyway, let's get into this. Today we're going to see if we can get this finished up. So what I've got here is I hate to call it a rough sketch, but it truly is rough in the sense of where I want it to be versus where it is right now. From the artist's perspective, we'll call it rough. But in this case, this is a picture of like I said, an Eladrin elf called Whim. She was made on a whim by a D&D player who I have known for quite some time, and I had some commissions open, and she offered to, she didn't offer, I offered to draw her character, and I was very interested by this character and by some of the stories that she shared about her, but yeah, if I remember correctly, she's a winter Eladrin, which I think is which if you don't know, an Eladrin is a elf from the Fey realm. But basically, I was able to get a pretty good sketch of her, digitally. Here we go. Here's half of the drawing at least. You can see I sketched her out digitally on my computer. And I didn't love how the line work was. You'll notice that it's very heavy-handed. It's kind of all over the place versus just this nice subtle tracing that I did afterwards on this 11x17 paper. And what I like about this process is, because what I've started doing is drawing my stuff out digitally and then finishing up traditionally, and then going in with colors digitally, is that I get kind of the best of both worlds. I get the speed from working with line work digitally, but then I also get kind of the beauty and the natural, I don't know, aesthetic isn't the right word, but the we'll go with aesthetic. We'll say the natural aesthetic and the natural beauty of the traditional traditional methods and mediums. So let's go ahead and let's see if I can scoot up here to my normal natural sitting position. And what we're going to be doing here today, hopefully by the end of this recording session, we'll have at least the pencils done for this character. Now I know what you're saying. We've already got, a sketch here. Doesn't that mean the pencils are done? Well, it means that I'm not questioning necessarily what or how this character will be posed as, but I do still want to have certain aspects of this character still figured out. For instance, the lighting is one of the things, and also details. So at this, I would not be comfortable just going in and inking this drawing, although I might be tempted to. One of the things I'm going to do is try to work out some of these wrinkles. So here I've got Whim wearing this jacket, and it's like a half jacket with a hood. It's like the ultimate emo kid's dream. I remember when I first started designing characters way back when. So this would have been when I started drawing, maybe when I was 13. Hoodies everyone was wearing a hoodie or a jacket. And then sometimes, if they were really cool, they would have a hoodie jacket. And then eventually, I go to college, I get all this education. I get 2-3 degrees, actually. And now everybody's got a hoodie and a half jacket. That's the new iteration of that. So you never quite grow out of the things you like, I guess. But yeah, I thought for this character, because she's a ranger, but the story goes she's kind of a bit of a she leans heavily into her Fae ancestry, meaning, of course, she is quite a bit of a trickster if you know anything about Fae. In pretty much any story, when it involves Fae, they're going to be the tricksters, I think. For those of you wondering, I'm using a 2B pencil. I'm going to be using a normal 7mm random garbage mechanical pencil, a slightly better 0.5 mechanical pencil, and then this is I think I've got H or HB lead in this. I'm not sure what I left in here, but this is just a graphite holder. So those are the only quote-unquote special tools that I've got for today's drawing. You don't have to go in and shade as much as I do, but I've been watching a lot of Frank Cho recently, and what I like about him and like the way that he draws is he makes the pencil stage such an amazing like exploration of the piece, such a fun just bit of, I don't know, he's got such a expressive way with the pencil before he even gets to the ink, and I really like that. I think that's something that's fun. There we go. Tune down my music a little bit. So here I've got her sitting on this barrel of Alchemist's Fire, which if you're a Baldur's Gate 3 player or a Dungeons and Dragons enthusiast, you'll know that essentially she's sitting on like a bomb, pretty much. But one of the things about this character that really drew me to her and made me excited to draw her was the player who had invented Whim, the Dungeons and Dragons friend of mine. They basically their DM said, yeah, you can have unlimited items of the I think it was the common variety, and I guess they didn't really think that through, because this character, who is created to be kind of a character of mischief and an agent of chaos, goes in and it's just like, yep, I'll have this, and I'll have this, and I'll have that, and it turned out she had like a lot of items. So what they did was a mechanic that they had was essentially she had to roll anytime she tried to pull something out of her bag of holding, which I've got here, and to see if she had found whatever item she was trying to pull out, because she had just way too many items. And even though like that was implemented and balanced, which I gotta say for the DM that was quite clever, but even with that kind of balancing in there, there's she still had quite a few items. And I remember I received the character sheet as a part of the talks when we were working out this character and how I was going to draw it, what we were going to have her wear and whatnot. And yeah, I was going through and I was just like, okay, so like, does she have all of these items, or are these just items that like she's picked up? And they're like, yeah, pretty much. So one of the many features of this character is just her massive amounts of stuff. So hopefully we'll be able to show that off a little bit. But yeah, she's got the Alchemist Fire cask. She's got like a bundle of various arrows. She's had all kinds. And then I've got a potion here, a couple potions there. We're gonna have to work those out as we get to them. But what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of blocking in where I want the shading. because I don't have to like really render any of the shading at this point, because I know that that's going to be, the shading is going to be taken care of by the inking. But essentially I want to communicate to myself in the inking phase, okay, this is dark and this is light. That sounds rather simple, but then you sit down and try to do it and try to think through, okay, well, how would the light shine, or how would it fall in this form? It sounds like I've got quite a few birds outside my window today. It's too nice of a day to have the windows shut, so we'll just count that as part of the ambience. For those of you watching this video on the sleep aid version, which is a new feature that I've added, by the way. It's something that I think I'll be doing with a lot of the videos I'm in this format, is just creating a version of the video without music. But if you're watching that version of the video now, you're going to get quite a bit of bird song. So, sorry, there's no way I can mute them. Well, there is, but it's rather violent. I'd rather not. It's all the same to you. So here you'll notice with different materials I'm employing different shading methods. So here, like on this glove, or even on this sock, or tight, I guess. I don't know how you would say it, or what it would be officially called, but I'm adding a dark area here, up the leg, and a dark area here, and leaving the center light. And that's pretty much how you'll shade any and all cylinders, which our body is, the human body, or in this case the elven body, is made of cylinders. And what that method does essentially is it allows for the illusion of 3D, and it's just a quick and easy way to make that really pop. Now you don't want to go overboard with that. Obviously you don't want to like make this completely black on both sides, otherwise you'll lose the form completely, and you also don't want to have too harsh of a light. So that's why you go in with pencil first, and then what you can do is you can kind of feather this edge like I am, and then figure out how you're going to translate that later when you go in with the pen. But it's good to think of these things now. So for me, this is a dark color, so it's okay. I know this is going to be a dark color. I designed this outfit. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed with working with this commissioner, who I don't have their permission to say their name, so I won't. But this good friend of mine, they're very generous with how they allowed me to kind of go wild with the design. Not wild, more like I had a lot of creative freedom, which I appreciate that. I don't mind taking, preferences from the creator, and obviously it's their creation, it's their character. They have a lot of connection to this. They've several dozens hours in D&D playing as this character, so they know it much better than I do. So I want to respect that. But it is also nice sometimes when the creator's like, yeah, give me your version of it, or give me what you think would best work for this. And so I obviously, whether or not I have clear instructions or more freedom like that, I still take my time and I make sure to design the character as best I can and make sure that I'm doing that character a service and I'm doing the commissioner a service. And that kind of leads me nicely into this little segue, this natural segue, if you will, to tell you that commissions are open. If you would like to commission me and get a piece like this for yourself, obviously with a little more finish than where we are right now. We've just started this film, this video. Then check out my commission page. It should be on my Ko-fi, in my pretty much in all my links on my social media, in the bio on Instagram, and in the description in most of my YouTube videos. So There should be a link for commissions. I know they'll be open right now. By the time this comes out, should have plenty of spots for you, and I draw characters like this on big 11 by 17 boards, unless otherwise specified. I do full ink, full color. I prefer drawing full body characters just because I feel like that's more worth people's time and money. But I also have the option to give you the original, so not give you, you have to pay for it, but if the commissioner so chooses, you can receive this original drawing in the mail. You just have to pay shipping and handling, and I will put it in a sleeve and take it down to the post office and ship it to wherever you live. I should say put it in a protective sleeve and with some cardboard backing so it doesn't bend. Although this paper is very sturdy, so damaging it would be difficult. But there's always the postal service isn't always so kind to paper, but we'd like to think that they are. I'd like to have a little faith in those guys, the post office, but you never know. But yeah, if you would like a commission, they're available now, and I think they'll be available for quite some time. I enjoy working on these kind of characters. And I don't just do D&D characters. I'll do fan art. I'll do sci-fi characters if you have a sci-fi character, or maybe like an OC that you've been designing for something. I like to generally have a good idea of what I'm drawing, though, so something that you could do is, if you do have an original character and you haven't figured out a way to get that visually represented yet, try to get yourself some sort of artwork of it, whether you just draw out very simply yourself, or if you go on Pinterest. I know I use Pinterest a lot because of the option essentially to create boards and get like a mood board of the character and their general vibes, or even, clothing and other gear and other things like that. Because what that does is, if you share that with me, I can use that as reference, and we can communicate very clearly what you expect and what you want for the character. But then also it helps you as you kind of design your character and think through, okay, what do they wear? What is the general mood of this character? What kind of food do they like? Which I guess isn't that important. But that's something I suggest if you're going to commission me, or anybody really, to have that set and ready to go, so that when I come in and I'm ready to draw, I can just draw without wondering, and we can get that done nice and easy. And who knows, maybe I'll be drawing your commission on my channel next, which of course I ask permission for. I don't just draw willy-nilly. But yeah. But you don't have to have a Pinterest board, of course. It's not like a requirement. I'm not going to berate you if you don't have one. I enjoy having it for most of the characters that I've made, and I highly suggest it to people that I've worked with and people that are designing characters or looking to have those characters drawn. So here you see I've swapped over to my mechanical pencil in this area where I know there's more detail. Or, yeah, there's more detail, but also, like, I know that how I want this area. There's not much that I'm going to change about this. from here to the final. It was funny, I had my first couple commissions where I said, hey, you know, I'm looking for commissions so that I can record these videos during my hiatus. And I opened it up to friends first because I knew that, you know, that would be nice and it'd be fun to draw some things for my friends. And I was like, yeah, I'll do fan art and I'll do, you know, characters or whatever you want. But mostly just, you know, all I was offering was characters, and I thought that I would for sure have a bunch of people be like, oh, draw, you know, this character from this comic, or draw this, you know, this description from a book, or this character from a movie. And I was especially, you know, I was anticipating I'd be drawing fan art, which I was fine with. I thought that would be fun, you know, to draw some of the characters that they're interested in. But, like, nobody did. Everybody was just like, oh, I've got this OC, I've got this OC, I've got, you know, a Dungeons & Dragons character, I've got a character that I've played in this game, and, or, you know, and such like that. And I was like, alright, well, that's fine then. We can do that for sure. I was like, I have no problem with that. That was something that I offered, but I had assumed that more people would be like, draw Raven from Teen Titans, or Superboy, or Iron Man, and they're like, nah. Draw the characters that are all original, and that's super fun for me, because some of them I got to design, or I'm getting to design. They're not all done yet. Some of them I get to do a bit of different work with them as it relates to technique and style. I know one of them, it was funny because what I had was, I had somebody, they wanted me to do a pirate, which I think I'll be recording pretty soon, as I'm pretty close to finishing up that design. And then I had somebody else, and they also had a pirate. I'm like, there's no way that I've got 2 pirates that I have to draw now, but that's on the schedule now. I've got a little sticky note. It's like, draw pirate, and then draw pirate again. It's 2 different pirates, but still. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's strange that it happened twice. So, thinking of all my best terrible pirate jokes for that video. Alright, I'm gonna leave this bag alone for a little bit and go back down here and finish up this boot. Or start the boot and finish it up. And these boots are based off of actual boots that I saw on Pinterest. I've got a board on there that's just labeled fashion. And what I do is I go around. Sometimes I'm looking for it. By now the algorithm on Pinterest knows what I'm looking for, and it'll send me pictures of different outfits and different pieces of outfits. So I get a lot of boots, I get goggles, I get tops, I get all kinds of things. And everything from space suits to like jumpers and suit coats and cloaks. That was a big one for a while. Just about every kind of cloak and poncho you could find. And what I do is I collect them into this board. I don't know how many is in there. I think it's over 1,000 by now. Pins where I will go through and I will see, okay, so I'm drawing this character. I know, just based on my instincts, or based on like good design, I guess, what I want them to wear. I know, say I want them to wear a jacket, so I'll go in there and I'll look up and I'll try to see what kind of jackets I've got. And sometimes I've got something and sometimes I don't, but more than more than enough times I've gone in there and I'll find exactly what I want or something that's close to that. So I found these boots in there, and they were a little bit more goth, a little bit more, I think there was like a skull buckle here. And, but I removed that because I didn't need it for this character, and what I did was in the digital sketch is I just kind of sketched them out. I had to manipulate it a little bit in my mind, how, for the particular angles that I was going for. But the nice thing about Pinterest is sometimes you're dealing with products. And the nice thing about dealing with products on Pinterest is that you have to have, or just products in general, if you're looking for reference material, is that you have to have like multiple images for products in like really great lighting and, very big pictures with a lot of details so the customer can see, what they're buying. And so that's why I like whenever I'm, sometimes I'll just go shopping for the character that I'm designing. And if you can't see, I'm sharpening this. But like sometimes I'll just be like, yeah, okay, so if I was Whim, what would I buy? Or if I was, Dakin of Kratagor, what kind of jacket or what kind of boots, or, sometimes even what kind of socks or what kind of hat would I wear? And then, you look into that and you get into that mindset. It's a great way to build your character, but it's also a great way to design and gather reference so that when you draw your character, it's as based in reality as it can be, while still breaking into the fantasy. And that's something that I think is so important, to learn how to find that kind of reference and to use that kind of reference. I've met some people that are like, oh, reference is cheating. I don't know where that idea comes from, but it is such a lie. There's nowhere that says if you're an artist thou shalt, only draw what's from your imagination. There's no need for that at all. I think we see other artists who have drawn from reference so much that they no longer need it, maybe on the fly, or they don't have it, so they have to improvise. And we think, there's a professional. That's the difference between me and them. When in reality, it's more that artist has trained and taken their time. Or, they're a prodigy and we hate them. This is something that I can never get over. It's just like, I was just born good at art. I'm like, I hate you then. This fixes everything. I don't have to worry about all the social cues. I can just start throwing rocks at you now. How dare you just wake up and be good at it? Alright. I liked these boots though. I think they were fun. They were a fun addition because essentially what I wanted to do was have almost like a Final Fantasy looking character, which is kind of what I envisioned Whim being. Like someone you would see that's like maybe in the background, but like one of those really, because like that was something that like I noticed in like Final Fantasy when I was playing the remake of Final Fantasy VII, which I need to get back into. Things have just gotten so wild recently, I haven't been able to finish it. But when I was playing it, like a lot of the characters, even if they're background or side characters, have like these great designs, and I think that's really speaks to like the craftsmanship and the love that goes into that game. Got some holes here in the socks, show off some wear and tear, which kind of tells a story about our character, which everything tells a story about our character. Every little piece of the outfit, every, if they've got pieces of gear, the weapons that they carry, if they carry any weapons, everything. And that's something that you want to keep in mind when you're designing your character. It's like, okay, are they carrying a sword just because that looks cool? Or have you thought out, all right, what kind of sword are they carrying? What hand are they holding the sword in? Are they using both hands? Is it too big for them? Are they used to carrying it? Are they, carrying it, on their side? Or are they carrying it on their back? Or do they have a sheath for it? Do they just carry it with them rather than putting it aside? Do they even have time to do that? Or do they live in, like, a society where it's, like, way too, dangerous to put it away? And on you can go with, just, like, their weapon. But, like, it's the same with their clothing. You can tell what era they're from. You can tell what age they are. You can tell what their maturity level is. All from just, like, simple nods here and there and the props and then the design. And that's something that, like, is really, really fun for me. I love getting into character design. I love working with just kind of telling stories with your art and trying to coax these characters out of nothing, really. It's part of the process that I just absolutely love. Such a fun job. I remember when I used to work with indie games back in college. I would try to befriend those people that were making video games, or even like just like small projects for school. And it's like, oh, you need art for this, right? And you don't have time to make it, or you don't know how to. And they're like, yeah. So either I would get in contact with them, or people that knew me would know that I was looking for work, and so we would usually it was only for free, but there was a couple of games that I wound up getting to work on. And it was really fun because through that I was able to really learn about my craft and how to collaborate with people. But also I got to really design characters for very specific purpose, because in video games, like, one of the things I was doing was I would design enemies. And at one point I had to design some of the bosses for this one game. And it was very intimidating work, because you have to have a knowledge of what the game is and what the devs want and how they want this boss, what they want this boss essentially to represent. Is it like hard, or is it the first boss so it's not that difficult, or is it what kind of moveset the boss is gonna have? How many attacks is he gonna have? Is he gonna be something that the players are gonna wanna fight, or maybe come back later, prepare a little harder for? It's like, how intimidating is he supposed to be? Well, there's a lot of factors into that, rather than just drawing what you want to draw. So that was super fun, and I remember coming away from that, and after I finished that job and being like, man, I really, really like character design. That's what I want to do. And for the longest time I thought that's what I was just going to be, is just do character design. But then I found that I also like a bunch of other things about art as well. But character design is definitely something that's motivated me in art. Probably more than anything else. I love it. I love doing research. I love doing the iterations and the sketches. More than even just like by the time you finish the design and are doing like a finished pose like this. Like, this is like the cherry on top, but you gotta get through the rest of the sundae. And I enjoy it quite a bit. It's something that if I could do it all day, and I guess get paid for it, or at least have like my bills paid, I would do it with a smile on my face. That's part of the reason why I love doing commissions like this. I get to kind of collaborate with the somebody else who has like maybe an idea for a character, but it's not all the way finished, or they don't have all the finer details really worked out for their character. So I get to come in and I get to kind of help them tell that story. that's really what I found out. What I really am through all that was a storyteller, and that's something that I love to do. Love to tell stories through visuals, and so that's how I kind of circled back. After I finished college, I was like, all right, let's give comics another chance, because I like comics is telling stories. It's not just character design. It is character design. There's quite a bit of that. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, there is still quite a bit of storytelling as well involved. How you frame things and how you break down your story into panels and the comic bubbles and whatnot. But I digress. Let me finish this ear. Now, the commissioner said something about shortening them a little bit. So, that's tough for me because I like having longer ears. So I'm gonna try my best to shorten it without pitching too much of a fit, because the customer's always right. In terms of preference. That's the full quote. That's okay. I'm not just joking in the videos when I say I like horizontal elf ears as far as character design goes. They really do. I don't know why, but just like it just... When you see that in comparison to, elf ears that go up and down vertically, kind of classically, like in Lord of the Rings or whatever, or just tiny elf ears, it's not as appealing, it's not as interesting to me. I've just realized that I started on the left-hand side, and I'm working my way... Or I'm from the right-hand side and working my way left. I know my left from my right, I promise. But I've started on the right-hand side and working my way left, where I should have started on the left-hand side and working my way right. It doesn't matter, it's fine. It's just the pencil stage. It can smudge. I'll get over it. Got this silver scarf that she was gifted. That's what I was told. I don't know the full story there. Just knew it was one of the design elements they wanted. Try to get some of this scarf put in there. You notice I'm using kind of a hatching technique to describe most of the turns and the folds and most of the penciling here. Oh. And that's because, for one, it works really well. For two, it works really well, I should clarify, for like describing form, but also like when you come to inking, you can kind of feather your edges that way for like a classic comic book look that doesn't make the ink just feel like big spots of black. But for two, I really, really like hatching. And I blame like Bernie Wrightson for that, because Bernie Wrightson was an artist that I found during college that I just absolutely loved. And I loved his Swamp Thing images and how he would cross-hatch. Or the other one that I liked was his... he illustrated Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's. I don't know. I think it was an anniversary of some sort. I don't know which anniversary, but there is a... If you just look up Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein book, you find an illustrated novel version of Mary Shelley's book. It's. I have it on my shelf somewhere. I love pulling that out and looking at his work, because he used to work with ink, and so every Inktober I would pull out those almost spooky and scary drawings of Frankenstein and pull those out and use those for inspiration for when I was, you know, designing stuff for Inktober. It's really great. Really, really good artist. He worked on Swamp Thing, and I think I don't remember what other comic line he worked on. But he was a very good illustrator. But his hatching technique is just absolutely magnanimous to look at. Is it too early? Let's do the face. Might as well. Let's go ahead and get some of the hair in here. With the hair, I know it's going to be light, but because I think it's going to be kind of like a shining purple or something like that. So we don't want an overboard shade on the hair, but we also don't want to leave it completely blank. You're not making a coloring page when you ink. You want to show form, and you want to show the exciting details of the character. I've noticed that sometimes when I draw the nose, it's a little bigger than what I want it to be. And I think that's from the fact that I usually start with the nose when I'm drawing. And I think that's because it's a great landmark to kind of give you reference of where everything goes on the faces, because that's kind of like the center point. But I've known people where they start with the eyes because that's the emotional center, if you will, of the art. I don't like starting with the eyes, mostly just because, for one, it kind of just sets the drawing in stone too early for me. Because, you know, the eyes are the window to the soul. So once you draw the soul first, it's kind of hard to look away and work on the rest of the drawing, the small minutiae and the details that are kind of important, or more important than just the eyes. But I think the eyes get a lot of attention just because, like, you know, most artists, they start out drawing eyes. They go through that phase where they're drawing nothing but eyes in their sketchbook. And I can respect that. I've definitely gone through that as well. But, you know, you want to make sure everything else on the face gets, like, a good amount of attention as well. Otherwise, you know, you'll have some really nice looking eyes, but some really crummy looking, you know, ears or other facial features. Kind of gave her this like swirling hair here in the front because I thought it would kind of show off her whimsical, cheeky kind of behavior. Personality, I should say. When I turned in the sketch to my client, the commissioner, and I said, I asked for input, the first thing they said was like, she is trouble. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted the piece to really say. Give her a not malicious trickery, but like definitely an air of mischievousness. It's a good word for it. As most Fae are prone to being. Might have to go in there with a smaller pencil. It's a 0.0 or 0.3 lead. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. There we go. That's better. Go ahead and get the eyes in. Might as well. I do think the eyes are one of the most important parts, but I think Mark Crilly said it best, like, eyebrows are either more important or just as important or second important to the eyes when it comes to conveying emotion. And I've always thought of that while I was working and drawing the face, because you can tell a million different things with the eyebrows. They're very, very expressive. They're very, very subtle. I love working with them. I wish I could erase this without smudging my paper, but it seems all my erasers are quite messy, apparently. Yeah, Mark Crilly, one of the guys that got me into drawing. As I'm sure a lot of people from my generation. That sounds wrong because I don't feel that old, but it's true. My generation probably was inspired most by Mark Crilly, just as other generations were inspired by Bob Ross and other entertaining artists that took their skills and told people they could do art. You know, they didn't have to wait for somebody to give them permission. They could go out and they could try. And I used to love watching Mark Crilly videos. I still do. Occasionally I'll look him back up, see if he's been doing anything. I don't know how active he is on YouTube right at this second. I think he's either releasing a new book or has released a new book. I'm not sure which. But sounds... I think he's... I might be wrong on that. I know he's released several good ones recently. So this glove is going to be like the full glove, as opposed to just the kind of the archer's glove over here. I used to do a bit of archery, nothing professional or anything, just for fun. And I used a simple bow, like this, instead of one with like the not gears, but the kind of, I don't know what they would be called. It wasn't a compound bow, so it didn't have as much pull, but it also didn't have as much range, so I had to get rather good at it. But one of the things you might not know about me is I actually am half blind in one of my eyes, so I can't fully see out of it's my left side. And there's nothing really the doctors can do about it. And it's never really impeded me. I didn't know that it wasn't a thing, actually, when I was a kid. I just thought people were right-eyed and left-eyed, just like how they're right-handed and left-handed. So I didn't bring it up till I was like 9. And we went to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, it's just an eye that never really learned how to see all the way. I've never thought of it as a handicap. But one of the things is that depth perception was a little bit difficult for me. Not that I can't see 3D things, I can see in 3D just like everybody else. But, pardon me. What I can't do is see 3D illusions, like in movies and such. So yeah, 3D movies don't work for me. So I remember I was ridiculing someone. I wasn't being ridiculed. I was never like bullied for my inability to see, but I remember like before I knew that I couldn't see properly, I was ridiculing someone for going out and seeing this movie in 3D. Like, why would you do that? It's just, you go in and you get a headache. There's nothing really there for it. And then I learned later, it's like, well, not everybody goes in and gets a headache. I was like, oh. I'm the freak. Here, I've got that bowstring. Alright. I like that so far. It's not bad. I've made a pretty good go of it. Not quite where I want to be yet. But a good start anyway. Giving her bow a bit of flair here because she's an elf, and everyone knows when it comes to elf there are no simple anything. Everything's like this artist craftsmanship, this Art Nouveau swooping angles and sweeping curves, such like that. I heard it once said, and I have to agree, that Art Deco is dwarves, where you got those blocky shapes and very symmetrical designs. And then Art Nouveau, where it's more sweeping and natural and very graceful. That's your elvish designs. And that's what I've used as kind of my my base for whenever I'm drawing fantasy. It's like, oh, if this is elvish, it's, like this. If it's dwarvish, it's Art Deco, and it's more hardline. This would be a great time for a French curve, and I've got one literally like less than 12 inches away from me, but I'm not reaching for it because I'm just a stubborn piece of garbage. Not that I think I'm better than the French curve, or I think I can do it better with it. I'm just lazy. I'm just, oh, I've got this. Bit of freckles, give her some personality. Alright, some good progress. I'd like to get this other leg figured out. Over on this side, finish up the shading up here first. So I think, because the shadow's this way, the light's kind of off this way. Let me darken this a bit with a darker pencil. So you can kind of see where I'm planning on just going in and blacking in the areas with the ink pen, and where I'm planning on going a little bit lighter. You can do that with a darker pencil, or you can just go over where you've done your hatching and just go over the hatching again. In this case, I think I'm just gonna go in with this darker pencil. Gonna help figure out some of the form a little bit. Might brush some of that out. We'll see. Let me see if I've got any good examples. Always keep a good comic on hand. This is the Batman Unwrapped, Court of the Owls. That's why I'm flipping it upside down and around, because they halfway through this story decided to screw with everybody's heads and make the book spin, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, because it really does give you the sense of being lost in a labyrinth. And I don't want to spoil the story, but that's part of it. But this is essentially like all the pencils from that story. And I highly suggest getting Unwrapped. DC Unwrapped is a series that they've done where they have these stories that don't have the color fully. They don't have the color, they don't have the inks or anything like that, and it's great so that you can go through and really experience the story as the artist. And if you're looking to further yourself like that, that's something that I would highly suggest picking up. They're a little more expensive just because they're usually hardcover, but I like them quite a bit. I know it's hard to get the Hush one, Batman Hush, but then anything Batman Hush right now is a little more expensive because it's a good comic. And DC needs good comics now. They need them to sell. So they've reprinted it, like, I think for the 18th millionth time. Repackaged it and done everything they can to get people interested in it again. And in my mind, if you really want to make Hush interesting again, you know, if you really want to repackage it, then you shouldn't have let whoever you did direct Batman Hush, the animated movie, because that was infuriating. I can't tell you how absolutely furious I was to watch that movie. I already had some issues with that new DC animated universe, but that, my friends, that pushed me off the edge when they ruined Hush so completely and utterly. Such a garbage movie that, like, the animation isn't even that good. And look, I know animation's difficult, and I get it. It's hard, especially when you've got, like, you're competing against anime and these other great studios that make you look like absolute muffins. But let me tell you, DC Animated Universe, you could have done a lot better. You could have done a whole lot better. You guys absolutely dropped the ball when it came to storytelling. You dropped the ball when it came to animation. You disappointed me. And I hope I've made myself abundantly clear by talking about you on a film that DC will never watch nor pay attention to. Watch me now have to try to get a job at DC and they pull this out and be like, yeah, so about your comments on this. Not to eat my words. I don't know. Right now, though, I don't know if I'd want to work at DC. That's the sad thing. That was like a dream back in the day. But they've come across some hard times, let's just say. And I don't think there's really any comic company that hasn't come across hard times in recent days, but I will say that DC has definitely taken a much harder fall than I think anyone else. They fell behind with the whole MCU, and they never were able to keep up with that, so they tried to make that better with, their own movies, and that made things worse. They tried to stay, relevant with their comics instead of being entertaining. So there is a difference. That didn't work at all. Diamond Publishing's gone out now, and I gotta say, it's rather not looking quite good for the comic industry, especially at DC. But I'm sure they'll find a way to get back. There's been plenty of highs and lows in comics. I think what people need to do now is to look at how they can make their own comics and to kind of show the industry how it's done. Like way back when Image Comics got started, the industry was going through a slump then too, so a lot of the artists that used to work for DC and Marvel, including Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, and Rob Liefeld, and struggling to remember all the people, but they all went out and they made their own company. They did their own comics, and it rocked the world. It was fantastic. Absolutely amazing time for them, because that just, all the ships rose because of Image Comics, because suddenly there was competition. Suddenly there was, there was a reason, there was somebody to try to outsell. There was a reason to make better comics. So that's why I'm hoping in the American industry of comics, people start waking up a little bit, because manga is really, really kicking our tails. And I think the reason for that is, I think, some of that's just preference. People have, manga's always been a much different medium than American comics as far as storytelling and such. But I think, I don't think American comics or Western comics in general are just completely done for. I think they just need a little bit more time and consideration than maybe what has been put into them recently. Because I think recently it's been treated more like a marketing piece or a platform for something, rather than a storytelling or an entertainment or even an art form. And that's just a shame, because comics really are an art form. And I believe that. I believe that if you understand that, you can make some absolutely incredible stories and absolutely very, very entertaining comics. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is it's entertainment. Anytime you forget that, then you're gonna struggle, because at the end of the day, people want to just be entertained, and if they don't like they don't like your comic, they'll just go read, Demon Slayer or One Punch Man or some other media that understands maybe what they want a little bit better, or a little more than you do. It's easy to start to get scribbly at this stage. Do your best to not, because I know that I often fall into that a lot, where I'll be doing the penciling and I'll start off really smooth, very controlled, and then I'll get to like, an hour or two in, or however long it's been, and I start to just scribble, and that's not good. Because later when you're inking, you won't have that direction, because essentially what you're doing is you're making the directions for your inking later. So you want to make sure that you take your time. Have you noticed that like the longer I talk, the more I slip into like random accents? I think this comes from like listening to audiobooks where the narrator changes their voice a lot. Because then I'll try to like mimic that. I don't know why, because it's like sometimes it's really subtle, because sometimes I'll just like, I think right there I was trying to do like, I don't know, Brooklyn or some other kind of voice or accent. And I caught myself. But, yeah, I don't know what that's all about. I know I've been doing it forever. I've been doing voices forever. That's something that I was very interested in as a kid. Made me laugh. So it was fun for me. And then to see other people react when you suddenly, you make a different voice than what they were expecting, and they freak out. I thought that was always the best. I don't love how these pants are looking here on this leg. I know it looks like I'm kind of scatterbrained when it comes to working with this, but I really am thinking as I work and planning where stuff goes, considering how I'm gonna finish this drawing and how I'm gonna ink it and what I'm thinking about with colors too, because you don't want to basically have an uncolorable photo or an uncolorable piece after you're finished. You want to make sure that you're catering to the whole process, even at this early stage. I say early stage, this is like the 4th time I've drawn this, because I did the sketch, I then did a kind of an anatomy drawing, try to get the anatomy and the pose figured out, and then I did the line work that you saw, the digital line work, and now I transferred it over, and now I'm doing the official pencils right here. So that's not bad. Could be better, but it's not bad. Oh no, I almost like that. Yeah, that's not that bad. If you do it right, you'll know based on when you go to ink it, you'll be like, oh man, I wish I didn't have to, you know? Like, you'll know you've done the pencils right at that stage. If you're hesitant and wondering, oh, maybe it could just be a pencil drawing. It's a good sign. You did your pencils right. I'll start inking. Because it'll look even better with ink if you've done it right. just a subtle shading here on the face. You want to keep it nice and soft because it's a female face. Rather than a male's face, you can just go in there and you can do it nice and hard and blocky. Okay, let's figure out this pant leg, and then I think we're pretty good. I might do some more on the barrel, but the barrel's not too interesting to watch, I don't think. So let's see. Kind of like this idea. I couldn't find the reference that I liked for this pant leg, or these pants in general, so I kind of had to make it up. I feel like it's showing. That's what I don't like. I do not like that. Let me see. I don't think there's going to be good reference in this. So I need it kind of hanging off of the body, off of the leg, but they're baggy. So nope. They're looking more like sweatpants, and that's not what I want. I want just like baggy pants, like somewhere between like harem pants and pirate pants. Hold on. I'm gonna pause for a second. Okay, let's see if this works. I found an image that I think I like, so I'm gonna try it. See if this is good enough reference for me. That's close. I don't know. It's close. Still don't know if I'd say I like it yet. If I was more of a master of wrinkles, I could probably just freehand it, figure it out myself, but alas, I am not. Right. Okay, a bit more of a smile there. More here and there. Okay. I think, even though I'm not so sure on those pants yet, maybe if I add, that's getting closer. I think what I was saying is, I think we're pretty much almost done with the penciling, so let me do a little bit more work here on her. Oh wait, I forgot this bottle back here. Let's refine some of this extra gear she's got on her before we get too excited and leave something undone. Although I will say, this is exciting. I do like this character design very much. Alright. So, like I said, I think what I'm gonna do is I might do a little bit more work on this barrel. But other than that, I'm gonna say that the penciling stage is pretty much done. So, what we're gonna do now is I'll go ahead and I'll just add a little bit more refinement up here, and then I think we'll swap over to inking pretty soon. There we go. I think that just needs a little bit more body right there. There it is. There it is. She's got to have a nice balance between like cheeky but then also almost like innocent, because she's sitting up on this barrel like, yeah, I know it could explode, but at the same time, you know, she's also giving you like the peace sign while she's holding this bow and arrow. So it's like it's a fun little balance. So there we go. We want to make sure that this part is light up here where the hair is, though. Make that sure that stands out. Yeah, like that. Okay. Nice. Alright, let's do a quick cut over to inking then.
Hey everyone, this is Editing Ruben. I just want to let you know that I've actually split this video into 2 or 3 parts. So the next part is inking, because I figured that it would be a little bit too long of a video to show you the penciling and inking stages. So go ahead and click this video right here to see that next part. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy seeing the next part of this video. So until then, go make something awesome.